Alrighty, so we've got part 2 of Mini Project 3, so let's jump back into it. And right here I was just about to cover this move all units thing. So what this does, we want to iterate through the entire units array, and we want to move each unit. Now, each unit object comes equipped with a move method that I'll look at more in depth in a second. And that thing, it doesn't always necessarily move the unit, but it handles checking to see if the unit should move. So by calling the move method on all 8 units, or at least all possible 8 units, sometimes some of these could be null, but by calling the move method on all these units, what we do is we check to see if that unit should be moved, and then it will be moved if it needs to. Alright, so we looked at find adjacent tiles. So here's the unit class. It's pretty neat. It's used to create units, so it's very convenient. Really, this is the first time I've used object-oriented programming in this capacity. I've used it a lot before in other classes, and I think in the Java class, but never used it on this scale, and never realized how useful it was until I did. Oh, it's definitely powerful. But what we do here, we create a unit class, and this is the constructor for it. It accepts a game object, another game object. To specify there, this game object is the game object returned by the instantiate method when it instantiates the prefab of the night. So, or the night prefab. So, prefab of the night. Anyways, the game object here, this is the game object returned by the instantiate method, instantiating the night prefab. The game object to the right of it there, the tile argument, what that, or what was it? I guess parameter. But the this tile right here, this represents the unit starting tile, so one of the 8 tiles around the castle. Oh, excuse me. And then we got the string here. This is the type of unit, and then we have a string array game board, and this is always the 100 element game board array. Of course, it could be changed anyway in size, but this is always that game board array coming from the main unit controller class. That way all of the units are always looking at the correct game board, and they can tell if they're which ones are located where, so they can detect each other. So then we set the object's properties here. That there, so the see here we've got some different variables here, and we set these values for them there. So the unit game object is equal to the game object, which is instantiated. The unit tile is equal to the tile it starts on. Unit type's equal to the type that's passed to it, and then the game board's equal to the game board on the unit controller class. So then what we've got here, we get the name of the tile, which was passed to us. So this is the tile name, and then we split it into the array containing 2 strings, which is the row number and column number. Then we parse the row number and column number, and we set the this location on the game board. So game board row number, comma, column number. We set that equal to the type. We could have set it equal to anything other than null or an empty string, because all that tells us is that, you know, something is there, so don't move there, and that's in the move method. So we'll look at that in a moment. Now we've got our public class variables, which we've pretty much looked at. Yeah, we've already looked at those. Here we have to reference the castle tile here, which is kind of, I think we referenced it earlier. Yeah, so we referenced the castle tile earlier, but it was kind of the same problem. Now to think of it, I could have probably put it in the constructor, but it wasn't too much of an inconvenience considering this isn't a mono behavior class, so we could call the object.find or GameObject.find method and just make it a nice little one-liner there. Now here we have a flag which was selected, and the whole idea is kind of like a delta selection or like a change in selection, and specifically with like the previous selection being the units tile and then the new selection being a different tile, and that's what we're looking for. Of course, eventually I'll have to implement movement points to restrict how far a unit can go, because it would just be insane. It would be an unplayable game if it could move as far as it was possible on the map. So it'll definitely have to be restricted, which could be added in further down here in the code. But yeah, on a basic level though, it's just a change in selection. So we start out and we say that the previous tile wasn't selected. I actually had a whole bug where I had put this declaration there down here, so it was always false, and the code to actually move the unit would never work, so that one threw me for a loop for a while, but fortunately I noticed it. So right here we have our move method. The first thing it does, it says if the unit's tile is selected. So if now we call on the touch action script, and it has a static method called getSelectedTile, which I looked at in another video, and this actually returns a reference. It returns the game object of the selected tile. So whichever tile is selected, it'll return its game object. So really what we're doing is we're seeing, is the selected game object equal to the unit's tile? And if that's the case, then we say was selected is equal to true. And this is where, like we say, now it was previously selected. So then nothing else would happen. This else statement wouldn't execute. And then a frame update would be called again eventually, and it would the user say they've touched another tile. So then this doesn't execute, and we go into the else clause here. And then it says if another tile is selected. So we want to make sure that another tile is selected and that it's not just null. So if they've selected another tile and not just deselected the units tile, then we want to say if was selected. So if the units tile was previously selected, we want to continue on, and it says if the tile is not the castle's tile. Now that's important because we don't want a unit to move on to the castle tile. It doesn't really break anything because you can still move off, but it shouldn't be possible, and it's an inconvenience to the user because every time they touch the castle, although it'll select the unit, it also pulls up the shop, so they have to enter and exit the shop twice in order to get the unit off. So it seems like a big inconvenience for the user. So I've restricted that to where it's not a valid tile. And then when we say here, if the proposed tile, I was not read the whole comment, but if the tile is not occupied by another unit, and that comes back to the game board array. There's actually a not occupied method that returns true or false based on whether the given tile has a unit in it, and that just looks at the string, and that's here. So it takes a game object as a parameter. In this case, the touch actions dot selected tile. Now it'll say initially this is equal to true, so it assumes it's occupied until otherwise proven. We get the name of the tile, and we go through that whole coordinate or index parsing action. And then right here we'll say if the string located at game board row number column number is empty or equal to null,